Well, the president claimed back in February via Twitter that he's been tougher on Russia than President Obama ever was. So is it true? Let's talk about it with Juan Williams, co-host of The Five, and former Utah Congressman, Fox News contributor Jason Chaffetz. Great to have you both tonight, gentlemen.
Nice to be here. Thanks, Shannon.
Okay, so let's start on the left. Scott Dworkin tweets this. He's from the Dem Coalition. He says he says to the president, "You're the weakest president ever. The BS sanctions," but he spelled it out, "you place on select Russians and companies can't be trusted. Nothing you do can. This is all so you can act like you're tough on Russia when in reality we all know you promised Putin something in return." Jason.
I don't know who that Dworkin is, but it sounds like a pretty ridiculous statement. And factually, President Obama was very weak on Russia. It started when he pulled out the missile defense from Poland. That was viewed as a gift to the Russian people. They tried to do this fictitious reset with Russia. They mocked Mitt Romney for his comments about the severity of the Russian threat. They really didn't do anything, but President Trump has done a lot, including a $100 billion plus up in our military, which the Russians can't keep up with, and these new rounds of sanctions that have gone on. And it was the Russians, by the way, that were accused of actually, poisoning somebody there in the UK, and we're supporting our NATO allies. We built a bigger, broader coalition and had more of an effect on Russia than anything Barack Obama ever did.
Okay, let's bring in Juan here. Now, Juan, Byron York wrote a piece about this, and he said, when this conversation came up, I reached out to a GOP lawmaker who immediately sent me this list. Bombing Syria, Russia's main client, and generally unleashing the U.S. military in Syria, including against Russians when necessary, arming Ukraine, browbeating NATO allies to increase defense spending, adding low-yield nukes to our arsenal, starting research and development on an INF non-compliant missile, and shutting down Russia's San Francisco consulate. So what do you think in comparison to the Obama years?
Well, I think the best case for Donald Trump is to say, I've been tougher in my first term than Barack Obama was in his first term. But I think that if you start to look at the record, and this is not just a matter of my opinion, I mean, you can look at PolitiFact, the Washington Post, the New York Times, they all say that when the President Trump, first said, I'm tougher than Obama ever was, that in fact this was not true. Why do they say it's not true, Shannon? They say it's not true because if you look at an issue like, for example, Ukraine, the United States government under President Obama was quite aggressive in telling President Putin to get out, sending forces. In fact, we sent our CIA director over there to help the Ukrainian forces. Secondly, Congressman Chaffetz mentioned the missile defense.
But that's not what happened, Juan. They took Crimea. They took it, and they kept it.
No, but let me just say that what happened there was they were going to expand to take Ukraine.
But they did take Crimea, and they did not pull back.
But they didn't, Congressman, because President Obama was tough, and the threat of U.S. military power made them back off.
Didn't push them out of Georgia either, where they took 25% of that country.
Okay, and then you mentioned the missile defense. Again, we moved the missile defense from Poland, and guess what? Putin cried bloody murder. He said that we were, in fact, expanding NATO, coming into his orbit, and that it was too aggressive. That was President Obama.
But he pulled it back, Juan. We were already, under George W. Bush, we were going to put the missile defense in Poland, and one of the first things Obama did is pull it back.
No, but in fact, we included Poland in NATO, and we moved the missile defense so that it was still effective in countering all of the Russian missiles, which is why Putin was so upset. But again, this is about, I think the real argument here is President Trump always trying to vilify President Obama, compare himself to Obama. That shouldn't be the point. Right. The point should be that he should speak aggressively against Putin at this moment, and he never says a word about Putin's meddling and interference in our 2016 election.
Well, and
I agree.
And maybe that, with you two on that point of agreement, I mean, that is one of the issues, too, that Byron brought up in his piece. He said, for some people who are critical of Trump on the issue of Russia, it's that they haven't seen the kind of reaction they want to see with regard to election issues. But when you look at the list of the other things, there is a debate to be had, and you guys had a good one.
I love it. I can talk with Jason Chaffetz. He's a smart guy.
I know. He probably feels the exact same way about you.
Thanks, Juan. I'm probably not going to tweet that out.
No, don't do that. We want to protect your base, brother.
We got to protect both of you. Juan and Jason, the two J's. Have a great weekend. Thank you both.
You too, Shannon.